It's not news that the Fed has been worried about the economy, but now things are getting worse. We're seeing more disagreements inside of the Fed on what decisions to make for our economy. Recession worries keep rising, and now it looks like President Trump wants to replace the chairman of the Fed. That's why in this video, I want to go over some of the biggest changes happening in our economy right now. That way you can be better prepared with your money, and more specifically, I want to go over number one, what changes we're seeing in the economy. Number two, what is the Federal Reserve Bank? How does this affect them? And number three, what might be coming in the stock market and our economy. So if we start by talking about number one, according to the data, inflation is under control, the job market is strong, and the stock market is booming. It all looks good. But there are some issues popping up that you might want to pay attention to. For one, Newsweek says millions of Americans are functionally unemployed. In other words, you studied hard in college, you got a degree, and now you're working at McDonald's, but you want to be working at Google or Amazon. You're not unemployed, you're just functionally unemployed. For two, we don't know what's gonna happen with tariffs, and depending on what does happen with tariffs, it could potentially bring some pain to the economy. Remember, tariffs are a tax, and that tax is paid for by importers, businesses who are bringing goods from foreign countries into the United States. So if businesses have to pay more money for their goods, they could either charge you more money or absorb that cost and make less money. And the third concerning thing in the economy, and there's not really a great way to say this, is Americans are running out of money. We've seen an average of 24% inflation in the United States over the last 5 years, while incomes over the same time period have gone up by around 20%, which means you have to use more of your salary to pay for your housing, for your car, for your groceries, and for your trips, so you have less money to save and invest left over, at least for the average person. I'll be talking more about this later in this video, but this is why tariffs and inflation are so important to pay attention to, because if inflation does get worse, well, that could make this problem even worse, which could make it even more difficult for a percentage of Americans to continue surviving, because life is already expensive and incomes for many people haven't kept up. Now, we've been covering all of this in Market Briefs. Again, Market Briefs is my free financial newsletter for investors, where every day my team is working to break down what's happening in things like the economy, housing, stocks, crypto, and global markets into a fun, witty, and easy to read newsletter. We have hundreds of thousands of investors that are reading Market Briefs every morning, and when you join Market Briefs, you'll also get my investing masterclass complimentary, where I break down how you can get started as an investor and how you can find hidden investment opportunities before everybody else. So if you want to get Market Briefs plus my investing masterclass all for free, all you have to do is click the link down in the description below. Now that we've covered what's been going on in the economy, let's talk about what's going on with the Federal Reserve Bank. Jerome Powell, who is the chairman at the Federal Reserve Bank, says that they do not want to cut interest rates right now, while President Trump says he wants to see interest rate cuts yesterday. But President Trump can't tell the Fed what to do, because although they're called the Federal Reserve Bank, they're actually not federal. But even says so on their website, they are an independent body. Generally, you cut interest rates when you are in a recession or a cool economy, because cutting interest rates stimulates spending. When you have lower interest rates, borrowing becomes cheaper, more people take on more debt to buy a house, to buy a car, to buy a business, and that then stimulates spending, which then grows the economy. On the flip side, you generally raise interest rates during a time of economic boom, as a way to cool down the economy or to cool down inflation. That's what we saw happen between 2022 and 2024. The Federal Reserve Bank raised interest rates to cool down the economy, to cool down the inflation. Now here we are in 2025. We have some reports saying that this is a very strong economy. We have other reports saying that we're essentially in a recession. And this is where the Federal Reserve Bank is confused, and that's why they say they do not want to cut interest rates right now, especially because of tariffs. Now, the reason why tariffs are so important, I hinted at this in the beginning of the video, is because tariffs can impact the economy in many different ways. For example, we have seen spending slow down because of tariffs, even though we haven't seen big price increases due to tariffs. Why? Because some businesses have slowed down buying products from foreign countries, because they can't keep paying the higher prices for those foreign products that we've seen the high tariffs on over the last few months. Now, yes, we're seeing a lot of trade deals happen today, but over the last few months, we've been seeing tariffs applied, but we haven't seen the prices of things rise just yet. And this is where you have some economists saying, just wait, because the price hikes are coming soon. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but it's something we want to pay attention to, because, well, the inflation problem is a concern, especially when we've been seeing the prices of things rise faster than the average person's income. And so if we do see a surge in inflation, that could make spending even worse. And then of course there are other economists that say if we do get price hikes, they'll just be transitory, so it's nothing you need to really worry about. And the reason why I'm bringing all of this up right now is because we could be seeing a shakeup in the Federal Reserve Bank coming very soon, which brings me to number 3. What's coming? We are seeing more division in the Federal Reserve Bank than ever before. And at the same time, President Trump has been talking more about wanting to replace Jerome Powell as the chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank because Jerome Powell's term is going to be expiring in 2026. What's going to happen in 2026 isn't really a topic for today's video, but just know if Jerome Powell is going to be replaced, chances are it will be with somebody who's more an advocate to lower interest rates, which could then make borrowing cheaper to help stimulate mortgage spending, car loan spending, business buying, and everything in between, because if it's cheaper to get a loan, more people generally spend. But the other thing you want to pay attention to is what's coming in July. The Federal Reserve Bank is holding their next meeting July 29th and 30th, where they're going to announce what they want to do with interest rates next. Now, we don't know what they're going to say, but it seems like there's more division inside of the Federal Reserve Bank. However, Jerome Powell keeps saying that he is not ready to start cutting interest rates yet. So, you have some people saying, well, Jerome Powell doesn't want to cut interest rates, so we're not going to cut interest rates. Other people are saying, well, maybe they'll hint at when they're going to be cutting interest rates next in 2025. We don't know what's going to happen, but this is going to be a big day for the economy and the stock market, so it's something you want to pay attention to. And the reason why you want to pay attention to this is because interest rates have a direct effect on many different parts of the economy and the stock market. Why? Because like I said before, our economic system runs on spending. The more money you spend, the more money somebody else makes. Now, when you go to Chipotle and you spend $100 in your bank account, that helps the Chipotle business. But if you go and spend $100 in your bank account plus $100 on your Amex, that helps Chipotle even more. That also helps the Amex business. So when you spend on debt, you are double stimulating the economy. And when you lower interest rates, well, that encourages more borrowing. It might not be the best thing for you to do to go and spend on your Amex and just keep stimulating the economy because you feel like you're being a patriot, but that's what some people do. They spend money on debt when it is more readily available. And of course, the little cherry on top is that July 9th is the tariff deadline. However, the White House also hinted that this July 9th deadline might not be a very firm deadline. We'll actually see what happens when it comes, but there's a lot of things coming. We're going to be getting a new announcement when it comes to the Federal Reserve Bank. We're going to be getting new updates when it comes to tariffs. And the reason why you want to understand this is because there's a lot of interesting things that are going to be coming. And Wall Street generally does not like uncertainty. Like in February, when Trump first announced the tariffs, markets crashed. And then when tariffs were paused, markets rallied again in February. In March, the tariffs were reinstated. Markets crashed along the globe. And then a few days later, President Trump paused the tariffs again. Markets rallied. Then in April, we had Liberation Day. President Trump announced these very large tariffs. Markets crashed around the world for days until these tariffs are paused again, and then the markets rose again. What's going to happen come July with the Federal Reserve Bank and tariffs? We don't know, but we could see uncertainty. And what I want you to understand is I don't want you to be one of the people that panic. I want you to be one of the people that can find opportunities no matter what. If we do see downturns, well, that could create an opportunity. If we hear good news, well, that can also create an investment opportunity. You have to understand your investing goal, your investing style. You have to understand what's happening and then have the money to actually be able to invest. I know we didn't talk about how do you actually invest your money in this video. If you want some more resources, you can check out Market Research Investing Masterclass. But this is where it helps for you to pay attention to what's happening. That way you can be a financially savvy investor instead of an emotional investor. If you make $80,000 a year from your job, you need to make $80,000 a year from your investment income to be able to quit your job and live your life without changing anything you're doing. With your job, you have to go into work every single day to keep getting paid. With your investments, once you put your money to work, it'll keep paying.